Why you should care about barrier islands. It's simple, really. They're so much more than tourist attractions or a source of economic income. Barrier islands have two key functions in serving human well-being as well as the natural environment. Not only are they able to absorb the impact from storm surges and help protect the mainland, they also have constantly changing ecosystems that are habitats to diverse wildlife and vegetation. Longshore currents carry and deposit sands and sediment that eventually build up to form these islands. Barrier islands are common along the eastern shoreline, and they run parallel to the mainland. Diverse wildlife can be found in all four zones of the barrier islands, whether it be the beach, the dunes, the salt marsh, or the maritime forests. Some things you should know is that all animals and plants in the barrier island ecosystem must endure long periods of exposure to salt water. Whether it be mole crabs, fiddler crabs, brown pelicans, sanderlings, or marsh periwinkles, each one of them has to deal with the salinity of the barrier islands in their own way. Even the vegetation has found ways to adapt so that it can survive in the salty environment. Sand dunes are formed when wind carries finer particles of sand from the beach over the island. The dune habitat receives moisture from rain and is occasionally flooded during storms. Plants such as sea oats provide stability through their roots to keep the sand dunes in place. There are different colors that show the different zonations of marsh grass. Notice how the vegetation changes as you look further out into the marsh. That's because it can be separated into different zones that are dominated by the salinity and the tide. Spartina have adapted their roots to be very short compared to their leaves to allocate their resources. Tiny snails called marsh periwinkles graze on Spartina alterniflora. If you take a closer look, you'll see snails dotting along all the Spartina. These little guys can decimate entire populations of Spartina if they are not dominated by their predators like blue crabs and turtles. Here we have some salt marsh birds like the great blue heron and snowy white egrets taking shelter from the wind on a rainy day. Phragmites is an example of an invasive species in the maritime forest. In the maritime forest, not much rain gets through because the overhead canopy blocks a lot of the rain. Not a lot of sun gets through either, so the ground cover is pretty bare.
We have hit what we call a dead end. And